I'm going to call this regularly scheduled meeting of the City Council to order. We have this morning the pleasure of recognizing some of the great activity that's going on in our city right now. We're all captivated by the election that's going on. So I'm going to turn the mic over to my colleague, Councilmember Jacob Fry, who is the chair of the Elections Committee.
Thank you very much, Madam President. As you know, we have an election, a major election that is coming up in the very near future. And I'm so proud of our city elections department, of our staff, of our election judges, because the turnout from 2012, which by the way was a record-setting turnout, is presently being blown out of the water. I mean, we are dominating. And from a context of people who are pre-registered before Election Day, we have far more people pre-registered. From the context of our early voting and satellite precinct offices, which are beautifully staffed, we are also blowing those records out of the water. And I just want to read a couple figures to you right now. So the total number of absentee ballots, this is early voting, in 2012, which again was record-setting at the time, was 15,143. That was the total. So right now, we're still like 5 or 6 days out from the election. And right now, we don't have 15,000 like we did last year at the very end. Right now, we have 41,321. That's almost triples the previous record. Triples it. You all should take so much pride in that. I mean, I look at the percent turnout last year was 81%. The total turnout in the entire election was 215,804 people. If we were to only account for the people that are pre-registered right now, that are already registered, we beat that number. And we know that people are going to register on Election Day because we have in-person registration available. I cannot emphasize enough how proud we should be. And, you know, when we look at what our elections judges are doing, and by the way, this resolution today, which I'm not going to read because it'll take a little bit of time, but is for our elections judges. We have 2,808 election judges in total. We have 1,405 first-time election judges. We have 412 student election judges, which is record high participation, by the way, as well. And we have 623 election judges that are providing language and translation support. This is not only impressive for Minneapolis, this has now become a national model as to how to do voter engagement, registration, and services right. And for that, all of you should be exceedingly proud of yourselves. And for that, I think we're going to have a wonderful, efficient, and productive, democracy-filled election day. So thank you so much. I think we should all give you guys a round of applause.
I want to echo my colleagues' congratulations, but also just compliment you too. We have heard multiple stories of constituents wanting to vote early and going to our centers across the city, the ones downtown and the ones in the neighborhoods, and calling us and telling us how wonderful they felt the experience was, how helpful people were in helping them vote, and just lots and lots of compliments. So thank you so much for your great work. Thank you. Clerk will call the roll.
Councilmember Goodman.
Aye.
Fry.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Present.
Gordon.
Here.
Kano.
Here.
Reich. Here. Bender is absent. Glidden.
Here.
Yang
Here.
Johnson is absent. Quincy. Here. Warsami.
Present.
President Johnson.
Here.
There are 11 members present.
We have a quorum present. Councilmember Andrew Johnson is attending a relative's funeral. Next item on our agenda is adoption of the agenda, and Councilmember Glidden has a motion to amend the agenda.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to move to amend the agenda to include under order of new business a notice of intent to introduce an ordinance amending Title II, Chapter 40 of the Minneapolis Code of Ordinances by exempting certain state-subsidized extended employment programs from coverage under the requirements of Chapter 40.
Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in approval say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. That motion is adopted, so a motion to adopt the agenda as amended is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in approval say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Next, we have acceptance of the minutes of the regular meeting of October 21st, 2016.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in approval say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Next, we have referrals of petitions, communications, and reports to proper committees.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in approval say aye. Opposed? That carries. The reports of the standing committees are next. The first is the Community Development and Regulatory Services Report. That committee is chaired by Councilmember Goodman.
Thank you, Madam President. The Community Development and Regulatory Services Committee is bringing forward 11 items for approval this morning. They include a land sale, licenses, as well as a whole host of levies for special assessments by Hennepin County. We have rental dwelling license revocation, the regular liquor, business, and gambling license applications, as well as our allocation of 2017 low-income housing tax credits and our 2017 partnership on the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. With that, I'll move items 1 through 11, but I do want to speak briefly to items 8 and 11.
Okay, Councilmember Goodman has moved all items on the Community Development and Regulatory Services Report. Why don't you go ahead and speak on those items then, Councilmember Goodman?
Thank you, Madam President. I gave much longer comments in committee, and I'm not going to do that today. What I want to do today more than anything else is thank the members of the Minneapolis City Council for standing firm against the ongoing attacks by others, outsiders in particular, who think that we have done too much on the affordable housing issue and should be doing less. Many of you know we have been challenged by Myron Orfield as well as a few neighborhood associations and others, stating that the city of Minneapolis is doing too much to house people and that we should be allocated less resources in order for the suburbs to do more. And I would make the argument that the suburbs should do more, but they shouldn't do more so we do less. Everybody should do more. And we have had this strategy in place for a number of years where we actually try to be a partner to nonprofits and for-profits who help house those who are hardest to house. And that system has just put a small dent in the number of people who are unlikely housed, either homeless and or living with relatives or having other precarious housing situations. While our contributions are a very small piece of the puzzle, they are a very important piece of early funding in or last funding to close that allows so many of our partners to move forward. So I think it's important to note that sometimes when you put together a strategy, especially in government, and try to stick to it, when it works over a long period of time, you can actually see the results. And our unwavering on the issue with regard to what we should be doing and our unwillingness to point fingers at others for not doing their part, I think has worked. We will see today that we'll have 3 projects receiving low-income housing tax credits. I'll note that the state reduced our allocation of low-income housing tax credits. So how is it that we have more projects being funded? Because in the end, no one applied for them at the state, and projects in our city got them too. So much for that strategy of give us less so everyone else will do more, because in the end, they won't do more unless they're motivated to do it because they believe in it as something that is an integral part of government's responsibility as it pertains to the safety net of housing. So I just wanted to thank everybody in particular for really standing firm and not egging on those who think that we should be doing less. We're not funding 10,000 units of affordable housing here, to be clear. We're going to house 46 homeless youth in the Youth Link project, 70 plus people who are former convicted felons who have had a hard time being housed. and a number of youth over in Prospect North, which is one of the first projects to happen in Prospect North, as well as 6 projects that the Affordable Housing Trust Fund is funding, half of which are in non-impacted neighborhoods. The total number of units is well under 1,000. So it's hardly that we're doing too much, but we're doing our part, and I'm really proud of it. So I just wanted to thank everybody for sticking firm and supporting our strategy, and now you can see the results are going to be positive.
On the Community Development Regulatory Service, I'm sorry, Councilmember Yang.
Thank you, Madam President. And I absolutely did not want to steal any thunder from Councilmember Goodman. I completely agree with her on that. And, I think, when I started serving, I think people talk about Ward 5 in the context of, I call it the specter of Holman, 20 some odd years ago. And, with regards to that, one of the first things that I noticed was that, there is a lot of substandard housing, and, the choices for folks who need housing shouldn't be substandard housing and or no housing whatsoever. And so I think this commitment that we're making is just, fantastic. And so just want to throw that out there, but I completely support Councilmember Goodman on what she just said.
Any further discussion on the Community Development Regulatory Services report? Seeing none, clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Goodman.
Aye.
Fry.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Reich.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Glidden.
Aye.
Yang.
Aye.
Quincy.
Aye.
Warsami.
Aye.
President Johnson.
Aye.
There are 12 ayes.
That report is adopted, and we have been joined by Councilmember Bender. Sorry, I just saw her. Next item we have is the Health, Environment, and Community Engagement Report, and that committee is chaired by Councilmember Gordon.
Thank you very much, Madam President. The Health, Environment, and Community Engagement Committee is bringing forward 7 items for approval today. The first item is approving Councilmember Abdi Warsami and myself to serve on our Community Action Partnership of Suburban Hennepin. This is the new Community Action program that will be we approved for Minneapolis. Second item is accepting a grant from the Minnesota Department of Health in the amount of $120,000 to continue public health nurse home visiting services to high-risk families. This is an extension of a grant. Third item is authorizing an amendment to a contract with Stair Step Foundation to increase the contract by $7,416. The fourth is passage of a resolution accepting donations of up to $60,000 from the Friends of the Skyway Senior Center to support operating expenses of the Skyway Senior Center. And the fifth item is authorizing the Health Department to enter into a letter of intent with Ecumen for a 120-day exclusive dealing period to negotiate details for Ecumen to assume operation responsibilities of the Senior Skyway Center. The sixth item is approving a community engagement plan to develop a neighborhood's 2020 recommendations with proposed completion of the draft recommendations by March 30th, 2018. And the last item is accepting a grant from the Federal Department of Justice under their Safe and Thriving Communities approaches to prevent and heal violence in the amount of $325,000 over 2 years to begin implementation of the Group Violence Intervention Program to reduce homicides and gun violence in the city. And I will move all 7 items for approval.
Councilmember Gordon has moved the Health, Environment, Community Engagement Report. Anyone want to speak on any of those items? Pull anything off? Seeing none, clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Goodman.
Aye.
Fry.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Reich.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Glidden.
Aye.
Yang.
Aye.
Quincy.
Aye.
Warsami.
Aye.
President Johnson.
Aye.
There are 12 ayes.
That report is adopted. Next, we have the Intergovernmental Relations Report. That committee is chaired by the Council Vice President Elizabeth Glidden.
Thank you, Madam President. One item here, which is updates to our 2016 legislative policy positions, and I'll move approval.
Councilmember Glidden has moved the IGR report. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Goodman.
Aye.
Fry.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Reich.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Glidden.
Aye.
Yang.
Aye.
Quincy.
Aye.
Warsami.
Aye.
President Johnson.
Aye.
There are 12 ayes.
That report is adopted. Next, we have Public Safety, Civil Rights, and Emergency Management. That committee is chaired by Councilmember Yang.
Thank you, Madam President. Today we have 4 items for approval. The first item is a grant award from the Department of Public Safety, Office of Traffic Safety for DWI Enforcement Officer. The second item is a contract amendment with the BCA for analysis of DNA case evidence. The third and fourth items are travel expense donations. One is to the Police Executive Research Forum, and the other is to the National Network for Safe Communities and at John Jay College of Criminal Justice. And I will move all 4 items for approval.
Councilmember Yang has moved the Public Safety, Civil Rights, and Emergency Management Report. Any discussion on any of those items? Seeing none, clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Goodman.
Aye.
Fry.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Reich.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Glidden.
Aye.
Yang.
Aye.
Quincy.
Aye.
Warsami.
Aye.
President Johnson.
Aye.
There are 12 ayes.
That report is adopted. Next, we have the Transportation Public Works Report. That committee is chaired by Councilmember Reich.
Thank you, Madam President. The committee forwards 8 items today for approval. Item 1 is the sanitary sewer service availability charges, levying those assessments. This will require 9 votes. Item 2 is the passage resolution adopting levying assessments for the repair and construction of public sidewalks. That will also require 9 votes today. Item 3, as discussed in committee of the whole, there will be an adjustment and an amendment. So we have a snow and ice removal public sidewalk assessments. However, we'll have an amendment that has been distributed and to dismiss the snow and ice removal assessment for the property at 2601 Thomas Avenue North. Item 4 is the Orange Line construction plans, inclusion of the 12th Street Transit ramp. A lot of good discussion about the importance of that. The following items are referred to the Ways and Means Committee. Item 5 is the Franklin Avenue East, West Broadway Avenue pedestrian improvement grant agreement with Hennepin County. Item 6 is the Hennepin Avenue reconstruction project, request for proposals for engineering design services. Item 7 is the parking ramp elevator modernization project, and that's a contract amendment with Morcon Construction. And the final item is the bid for supervisory control and data acquisition systems for the surface water sewer division and authorizing the contract for that project. I will move all items and noting the amendment to item 3.
Councilmember Reich has moved the Transportation Public Works Report, with item 3 being the change that's in front of you for TPW number 3. Any discussion on any of those items? Seeing none, clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Goodman.
Aye.
Fry.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Reich.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Glidden.
Aye.
Yang.
Aye.
Quincy.
Aye.
Warsami.
Aye.
President Johnson.
Aye.
There are 12 ayes.
That report is adopted. Next, we have the Ways and Means Committee report. That committee is chaired by Council Member Quincy.
Thank you, Madam President. Ways and Means brings forward 16 items for your approval consideration today. The first 5 are legal settlements. Item number 6 is a grant acceptance from LISC for a policing conference. 7 is a gift acceptance from Clear Channel Outdoor for display time. The 8th item is the low responsive bid from Messenger Construction for a convention center office remodeling project. We also have a bid from Electronic Design Company for convention center audio upgrade project. Item number 10 is the contract for Talix. That's a liability cap language approval. Item number 11 is the acquisition of real estate for the East Side Maintenance Facility project. Item number 12 is the contract for design services with RSP Architects for Hiawatha Maintenance Facility campus. Item number 13 is the contract amendments to increase and extend 8 human capital consulting professional services contracts. Item 14 is the contract amendment with Tow Exchange for towing software and operations system management. And item number 15 is the City of Minneapolis investment policy and strategy revisions. And the final item is the joint powers agreement between the City of Minneapolis, the State of Minnesota, Department of Public Safety, and Bureau of Criminal Apprehension. Happy to answer any questions on all 16 items, but I'd like to move approval of all items.
Councilmember Quincy has moved the Ways and Means report, all items. Any discussion on any of those items? Councilmember Glidden.
Thanks, Madam President. I had some comments on item number 15.
Okay, why don't you go ahead, please?
Thank you. I appreciate that this is coming forward on the same day that we as a council are approving one of the most significant things we do, as Councilmember Goodman said, is working on the tax credits and the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. But this is a partner piece that I think is part of a series of actions we're going to start seeing come forward of significant policy decisions that we are making as a city to support naturally occurring affordable housing. With this strategy, essentially, we are assisting in what would be first mortgage opportunity for nonprofit developers who want to take an opportunity that often comes up very quickly to come in and make an offer on property that might be for sale. And if it is for sale and is bought on the open market, might otherwise turn into non-affordable property. I wanted to call this out, not because I'm the person who works the most on these issues, but really just to make the point that we have a council, I believe, where virtually every single council member is working on some piece of how we are supporting affordable housing and how we're supporting a structure and looking for what are those additional options to preserve the affordable housing that is here today. So, we have Councilmember Yang, who's been working very faithfully on infill housing issues, Councilmember Goodman and Fry, who have been working to lead community development work, and Councilmember Goodman's long history on that. Councilmember Quincy, I know, spent hours working with our professional staff to understand this strategy and give some input on how it could happen, and on. I could mention every single council member up here. So I wanted to add my thanks to the council. I also want to say this is an example where we have an active community that is talking to us about the impacts, the very real impacts of what we are seeing and feeling with affordable housing that isn't subsidized, dribbling away piece by piece in Minneapolis. And then we have an engaged policymakers, including the mayor, of course. But then we have expert staff who are able to bring a high level of expertise to help us identify what might be those strategies where we can be helpful in ways we have not yet identified. And so I want to say thank you to Mark Ruff and to Andrea Brennan, who are our leads, our expert staff, and have helped to identify this as just one more strategy that we are putting forward to help with preserving affordable housing. So thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Goodman.
No on 12, aye on the remainder.
Fry.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Reich.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Glidden.
Aye.
Yang.
Aye.
Quincy.
Aye.
Warsami.
Aye.
President Johnson.
Aye.
There are 12 ayes on the report, except for number 12, which has 7 ayes and 1 nay.
Those items are adopted. Next, we have the zoning and planning report. That committee is chaired by Councilmember Bender.
Thank you, Madam President. We have 3 items from Zoning and Planning. Item number 1 is approving an appeal of the Certificate of Appropriateness at 419 Washington Avenue North and adopting the staff findings that are in our packets. Item number 2 is passage of an ordinance amending our zoning code to amend our Heritage Preservation Committee membership to make it more like the other boards and commissions in our city, including eliminating term limits. And item number 3 is passage of an ordinance amending our code of ordinances in the zoning code relating to floodplain regulations. This is updating our maps consistent with the requirements of the National Flood Insurance Program. And I will move items 1 through 3.
Councilmember Bender has moved the zoning and planning report. Any discussion on any of those items? Seeing none, clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Goodman.
Aye.
Fry.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Reich.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Glidden.
Aye.
Yang.
Aye.
Quincy.
Aye.
Warsami.
Aye.
President Johnson.
Aye.
There are 12 ayes.
That report is adopted. Next, we have the introduction and referral calendar. The first is a introduction by Councilmember Goodman pursuant to notice to introduce the subject matter of an ordinance amending the code relating to the food code for first reading and referral to Community Development Regulatory Services, amending provisions related to the requirements for obtaining a food license. Any discussion on that introduction? Seeing none, all in approval say aye. Aye. Opposed? That carries. Next, we have pursuant to notice, Councilmember Reich introduces the subject matter of an ordinance amending the code relating to the zoning code, for first reading and referral to zoning and planning, allowing live theater in industrial districts. Any discussion on that introduction? Seeing none, all in approval say aye. Aye. Opposed, that carries. We have resolutions next, and the first is the Election Judge Appreciation Day Honorary Resolution that we discussed at the beginning of the council meeting. Any discussion on that resolution? Seeing none, all in approval say aye. Aye. Opposed, that carries. Next, we have an honorary resolution honoring Todd Klingel, former chair of the Chamber of Commerce, also vice president of the Downtown Council, who passed away this week. So any discussion on that introduction? Seeing none, all in approval say aye. Aye. Opposed, that carries. Then we have several honorary resolutions. The first, and these are in conjunction with lighting the bridge, 35W Bridge. 2016 Salvation Army's Red Kettle Christmas Campaign Honorary Resolution. Any discussion on that resolution? Seeing none, all in approval say aye. Aye. Opposed, that carries. 2016 World AIDS Day Red Ribbon Ride Honorary Resolution. Any discussion on that resolution? Seeing none, all in approval say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that carries. We have 2016 World Twin-to-Twin Transfusion Syndrome Awareness Day Honorary Resolution. Any discussion on that resolution? Seeing none, all in approval say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that carries. We have the 2016 Restorative Justice Week, honorary resolution. Any discussion on that resolution? Seeing none, all in approval say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that carries. Under new business, we have a proposed charter amendment, plain language charter technical amendments. This has been disseminated by the city attorney. Anyone who's curious about getting a briefing on that can contact the city attorney. Receiving and filing the transmittal letter from the Charter Commission relating to a package of proposed amendments to the city charter which address a number of housekeeping items following the adoption of the plain language revision by voters in the 2013 municipal election. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, all in approval say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries. Councilmember Glidden gives note of intent to introduce at the next meeting of the City Council an ordinance amending the code providing for revisions to the plain language charter. That notice is given. There's a direction to the city clerk to publish notice of the public hearing to be conducted by the Intergovernmental Relations Committee at its regular meeting on December 1, 2016. Then on that item, any concerns about directing the city clerk? Seeing none, all in approval say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that carries. This is the amendment that was introduced at the beginning of the meeting, sick and safe time and extended employment programs ordinance. Councilmember Glidden gives notice of intent to introduce at the next regular meeting of the City Council the subject matter of an ordinance amending the code relating to administration workplace regulations exempting certain state subsidized extended employment programs from coverage under the requirements of Chapter 40. That notice is given. Are there any announcements? Seeing no announcements, a motion to adjourn is in order, and it's a motion to adjourn to 3:15 City Hall for the purpose of discussing 2 litigation matters. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in approval say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. We are adjourned. Thank you all very much.